So glad to have you on Zoom and in person. So it's a hybrid event, and we're super excited to present to you guys a really great panel, a lot of experts in luxury, and we have some really great people on Zoom. So, you know, you'll have to finagle in person and on Zoom, but I'm sure you guys are used to this after 2 years of the pandemic. So with that, I'm going to introduce our illustrious facilitator, Amber Noble.
So it is so great to be here. Thank you again to Wendy and Frank Homer for inviting me after us meeting at the KW Regional Mastermind. I am thrilled as a new earned-in luxury agent who's been doing luxury for a number of years to be here with you to have a conversation with some really esteemed agents and brokers who really make it happen at a high level. And we hope that we can give you quite a bit of value so that you can take it and apply it. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So our first panel consists of a few agents who are just really, really crushing it at a high level. First and foremost, I want to introduce our guest who is with us remotely. She is specializing in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Her name is Michel Morales. She is a KW Luxury Regional Board member, amongst other accolades that she has. And we'd like to introduce Michel. So Michel's with us here virtually.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Great to have you, Michel. Moving on to our next guest, we have two fabulous agents in luxury. Both are representing the Bucks County area, the KW Langhorne Market Center. We have with us Jill Babnew, and we have Nadine Simantov.
Hello.
Hi. And a lady who should be a stranger to none of us. I've been following her career for many years, since I first got licensed about 15 years ago. She is legendary, to say the least. We have Sue Adler, representing KW New Jersey Summit.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me.
So it is great to have you all with us. First and foremost, since you are here with us in person, we want to start with you. If you could just give us a sort of elevator minute about some highlights about yourself, Nadine, so we can get better familiar.
Well, I've been in business about 26 years. Doing Keller Williams Langhorne since they opened, which I think is about 17 years. I started a team 5 years ago, of which Jill is on my team. She's my buyer's agent, my main buyer's agent. And other than that, I got my broker's license a few years ago, which is just a personal accolade, doesn't change anything, but I was surprised how much more information I got from it. And I do a lot of teaching, which I really enjoy. And what I enjoy most is selling real estate. It's kind of my hobby, my profession, and a lot of fun.
Okay, awesome. Love that. So, Joe, can you kind of build on Nadine and tell us why you chose to join Nadine's team versus going about another way?
Sure. So I have been licensed for the last 5 years. I think when I met Nadine, it was kind of like love at first sight. I don't know if you felt that way. I felt that way, you know, and you were just such a powerful presence that I would find myself Googling you and being like, you were the person that I wanted to be when I grew up, you know. So for me, it's a huge opportunity to be on your team and someone who comes from probably not a very affluent background. It just felt right to kind of move in that direction.
Awesome. So you looked at Nadine sort of as a mentor from afar?
Yes, kind of like Miranda Priestley in The Devil Wears Prada. I was ready to be Emily.
Oh boy, that's true love there.
Yes.
Well, just to finish that for a second, I teach real estate licensing. I have a school.
She does.
Yes.
And she was one of my students.
Oh.
And I can have 50 people in the room. I don't know most people's names. It's in the room. It's in Zoom. And Jill, I kept seeing Jill, the one that was paying attention, many people had their heads down. And when class was over, I said, let's meet. And I didn't know she was hoping she'd get that invitation. So
She was plotting on you the whole time.
she
Nadine.
was.
So actually Nadine's partner in the real estate school would come over to me and say, you know, Nadine really likes you. And I would say, Howard, you know, she says incessantly that she does not take on new agents. So don't build this up. So I was ecstatic to get a phone call.
Well, I'm sure you felt very flattered and grateful
Yes.
to Nadine for taking you on. So,
Very much so.
so yeah, so that's a blessing because wisdom and experience is just something you can't even pay for. I find it interesting though, Nadine, you own a real estate school, but you just recently got your broker's license.
Well, I don't teach brokerage. You don't have to be a broker to teach
True.
school. I didn't realize how impactful that would be.
Mhm.
People would ask me questions, and my partner Howard was a broker, and I'd say, oh, I just don't know, let me ask Howard. So I can now answer most of the questions. I really didn't realize that it was an important designation in taking your knowledge to the next level. So any of you are thinking that you have like 2 years to continue going to school, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I said getting a broker's license when I got mine, it's like getting a master's degree, right? So if you go to college, it's sort of the next level. Okay, awesome. So we'd like to hear from Michel. Michel, can you tell us a bit about your journey to luxury? Just give us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a wonderful story. I love that that movie reference. That's awesome. So for me, I've been with KW Luxury. Well, now it's the earned in program, so I don't know how long that's been, but I pretty much stepped into luxury as soon as I stepped into real estate. So that was in 2013 when I partnered with Keller Williams. And prior to that, I did my own investing with real estate and just tapped in. I was actually a hard money lender. So got into real estate that way. And then once I relocated to Dallas, Texas area, my realtor was the first person that I met. And she was absolutely amazing, drew me in and just showed me a different side of real estate where we truly serve and love and just become these great people in the community for people who don't have anybody at that time, which was my family situation. So she pulled me into KW Allen. She's still my mentor. She's still here. She's actually one of the owners in the office. And I just immediately started hosting luxury open houses. I got my accredited luxury home specialist certification. And I just studied the luxury market. When I was in those open houses, I would do everything. I would look at the flooring, I would look at the ceiling, I would look at the difference between those properties and the properties that I was showing buyers at the time, and just really truly hone in on the difference in Texas, because it's different than Maryland, DC, which is where I moved from. So just became real passionate about knowing this luxury market, understanding it. And then the clients just came after that. So had a really wonderful opportunity and grateful to be here.
Awesome. I mentioned that you are a regional board member for KW Luxury. How has that impacted the work that you do actually as a practitioner in luxury? And how are you able to help your peers and other agents?
Great question. So the main thing is I'm responsible for getting our name and our brand out there for the region. So one of the main things we do is partner with D Magazine, which we did over COVID and the past 2-3 years. And I would literally just coordinate that entire show of getting all of our agents together in one location, which created the camaraderie amongst our region for luxury agents. And we would just do an invite only, choose a location, get the D Magazine shoot. Everyone who wanted to be in invested a certain amount of money to be in that opportunity. And that was our one time a year where we were pretty much guaranteed to see each other, be around each other, talk, coordinate, and just build relationships. So that is the main thing. Other than that, we are coordinating. I believe Sue may have done something for us recently, but we just coordinate this, what you guys are doing exactly, creating panels and different opportunities for agents to learn how to continue to grow their service in the luxury space and what we can continue to provide for our clients. And then also there's that opportunity for people who are not yet in luxury to move up into it. And that's where I'm passionate, is that people who really want to be in luxury and sell in that space and have not yet figured it out, just make sure we're creating some opportunity for them to be able to step up into that.
For those of us just quickly who aren't familiar with D Magazine, is that like your Philadelphia magazine or your New Jersey Monthly? Is that like sort of like a magazine for Dallas that you place
Yeah,
those in?
so yes, great question. So in Maryland, DC, it's called Washingtonian. So it sounds like it's probably the same thing in Philadelphia, the name that you said. And it's that where all your top producers, top agents are selected to be the best, is what we call it, the best top producers, the best real estate agents in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And that's where you have to be selected to be in it. And those are the agents where we're getting together with once a year.
Got it. Okay, great. So Sue, so great to have you here with us. Sue, we would love to get a snapshot of how you got into luxury and just any highlights of you moving from, I think, an agent when I first probably got licensed 15 years ago to now you have a much bigger role.
Yeah, so, I mean, first I want to say that I'm not all luxury. I mean, our team's philosophy is a third, a third, a third. So a third entry level, a third middle range, and then a third luxury. It's really important to to really be in everything, because if you're just luxury and the luxury market crashes, you're going to find yourself in trouble. So it's really important to not just focus on luxury. I have to say that. And so I started out by I've been in the business for 39 years, so I've seen all kinds of markets, but I'm from Philly, moved up to New Jersey in 2003-04 is when I started up here. And the first thing I did was I held a focus group of consumers who were moving out from our feeder towns, Hoboken, Jersey City, Manhattan, Brooklyn, and wanted to know what are they looking for that they're not finding online. And it was all about, well, the communities, what are these communities like? Milburn, Short Hill, Summit, Maplewood, South Orange, Chatham, Madison, what are the communities like? So I ended up doing community videos in all of our towns. And then from those videos, I went onto LinkedIn, found the relocation directors, and sent all the community videos to the relocation directors. So my business really started through relocation. I started getting all these relocation buyers coming in, and I didn't even know the area. I mean, I was brand new to the area, so I just started hiring agents who were really good in the transactions, but may not have been so great at marketing. And I hired people who specialized in these specific towns to run these buyers at the time. So it started very much buyer focused, but with relocation, you have higher end buyers. And of course, then you have these buyers. So I started sending out letters to homeowners to find listings for these buyers. And that's how I would start getting the listings. So you have a buyer, you market for the listings. You have listings, you market for the buyers. So it's not rocket science, so that's how I built it.
Got it. And you know what, you make a point. Although this is a luxury panel and this is our focus, I think for you as, one of the premier luxury agents probably in the country, and having a team that does have that as a specialty, to say that it is wise to maybe find balance, because not everyone is buying multi-million-dollar homes every day, right? So those buyers and sellers represent the sort of top of the food chain, if you will, and it may or may not be sustainable for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I would say also having a team of specialists, you have your newer agents who are going to focus more on the first-time home buyers. You're not going to give your newer agents a luxury client, so they have to work their way up to that. So it's good to know. I think somebody else had mentioned that just if everybody knows their niche market, that's kind of how it all works, and then everybody's specialized and an expert in their field.
Agreed, absolutely. So just kind of building off of that, Nadine, can you kind of give us some insight? Because you didn't just necessarily start out as luxury, right? You were selling.
No, you worked your way up. Yeah. That's definite.
What specifically drove you to evolve into that space? Was it natural? Was it sought out? Did somebody seek you to move in that space, or was this a goal?
I think it's always a goal because you're going to make more money, but I don't think for me, it wasn't a goal. I know other people who just decided they're just going to start marketing there. That's the market they wanted to be in. I think for me, it was more of an evolution of who my buyers were. You definitely start off running yourself ragged, and then after many years, like So I teach a school and we go around and ask people, what do you want to concentrate on? I'm only going to be a listing agent. Okay, sorry, that's just not happening. So you realize that you're going to go every direction to build your business. And as the people grew, and now that I'm in that mature age, you know, people can afford more of that price range. And a lot of the referrals that we get now are also from, you know, the younger kids that are willing to spend so much more than my group was as a young person. So, and as she said, nobody you know, to stay in business, you concentrate on doing business anywhere. Any listing I have, we're going to farm it. And we're going to send out as much material as we can. And I have another buyer agent who's brand new, just as she said, who's doing all those first-time home buyers. I think it's more of an evolution of your client. And once, like anything, I can get a listing in a neighborhood, and when I sell out, I can do that whole neighborhood. Thank you. It just goes that way, and that's been our spin on the luxury agents. You sell somebody, they're very happy. They're now going to refer their friends. The neighbor's going to see you, and I feel blessed to have clients that only in any price range, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. And you spoke about sort of like the millennials and some of these younger buyers. Jill, there's a slight generational difference between you and Nadine. How do you, as an agent who's been licensed for 5 years, who's newer to the business, how have you found your transition into luxury? If you could speak to our folks here and those watching.
I just have to lead in, I'm sorry to interrupt you, that I particularly, why did I target Jill?
Sure.
Because I don't speak millennial.
Yeah.
And, you know, somebody give you their kid and you'd be like, I don't think they want their mother. And I look for a classy broad.
Yes.
Which could handle both those millennials and the fact that I have an already successful business. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you for the answer. That was helpful. Nadine doesn't mince words. I love it. You sure you're not from Philly? Like me and Jill? She is from Philly. You from Northeast Philly?
I'm from Northeast.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, listen, you absolutely do. So we're speaking the same language. So you classy broad you. For those younger aspiring agents who either are, you know, maybe they've been licensed and they aspire to be in luxury, or they're just getting newly licensed, they're like, I'm a trust fund baby. I'm jumping right into what I know. I'm in luxury.
Yeah.
Speak to them, meet them where they are, and just tell them, give them some advice.
Okay. So when you get into this, you're going to, you know, the number one thing that you tell a new agent is to work your sphere. Your sphere is probably not going to be the luxury market. To me, I looked at my sphere like this is residual income. Like I'm going to always market to my sphere, and those are the sales and, you know, the buyers and the clients that I'm going to get. But where am I going to be active in, you know, taking my business to the next level? And for me, I built a lot of my business off of open houses. So I was very selective in what areas I placed myself. So if I had the choice between doing an open house for $350,000 versus $750,000, my choice is going to do the $750,000 open house. You know, my background was in sales and building materials. So I think, you know, Michel had said that there was, you know, learning as to what luxury materials were. I already had that as an advantage. So I can come in and I can talk to you about high-end appliances. I know the difference between wood floors and engineered hardwood floors. I can go into new construction and tell you what the upgrades were. So I had that working for me. I kind of knew the talk. I just needed to place myself in the correct venue to convert. So I think for a new agent who is looking to build that luxury brand, put yourself in a place that is most poised for you to build that. So I knew I was, you know, I was from Northeast Philadelphia, you know, or I am from Northeast Philadelphia. For me, I had to kind of take the Philadelphia out of the way that I spoke, which was a pointer that Nadine gave me very early on. We have a very honest relationship, so I was very thankful for that, though, because that I think has helped
After you got
me.
over it, yes.
After I got over it, maybe bruised my ego a little bit. That's what I did, is I kind of just placed myself in those venues to attract luxury clientele.
Got it. I love, Jill, hearing you talk, because you sound like a woman with a plan. You remind me of myself.
Yes.
Like I've lived since I was probably 3. And with the plan, I'm going to recess, I'm going to tech.
Yes.
And I see it in my daughter, so I can appreciate a plan, because if you fail to plan to fail, plan to fail. That is big. So speaking of building off of your builder's background, pun intended, I like how you took that history and you found a way to sort of marry it into where you were going with real estate.
Yes.
Michelle, calling on you. We're in KW Princeton's Market Center, and Princeton University is one of the renowned Ivy League schools in the country, in the world. Michelle, have you built, you have an Ivy League background, is that right? And have you utilized that at all? Has that helped you in luxury?
Actually, it has not helped me with myself specifically, but I will not say that it won't, right? So I did a program at Harvard University. I also studied women's entrepreneurship at Cornell University. And I think kind of what Jill was touching on, you have to know like what your strengths are and what you're comfortable with, and then work on like your weaknesses, right? So one of her things that she had to work on was her talk from Philly, Philadelphia, to moving into that luxury space and be able to talk a little bit differently. So for me, some people who think about luxury and think about price points, that kind of scares them, or they're kind of backing away from it. I was already familiar with that because I came from Maryland, DC area. So if you wanted to own a home, you were paying $500,000, period. Like that was just to get in and home ownership. So I just figured out like what my strengths were that I already had. And I think from living up north, I already had the dialogue, already had the conversation. I was already, I feel like confident and powerful in my walk and my talk. What I needed was, what is the difference between Texas soil and Maryland, DC soil, right? Like I wanted to make sure when I got in front of those luxury clients, I knew what they did not know to make their build jobs successful, or to make purchasing a home successful for them. Which neighborhoods would they be? Here in Texas, there's just certain neighborhoods that, and I'm sure in a lot of places, that are prominent, and you're going to hold value in, like your value is not going to decrease. So for me, it was more important to capitalize on that knowledge and that information of specifically being where I was, which right now I'm in Lovejoy ISD, which is a very niche community, and it's very focused on the school systems. And so learning those neighborhoods, learning the differences and how they all play out, and the difference in all the builders, the custom builders, your regular D.R. Horton builders, just learning all the difference between that was more important for me to focus on getting a head up in that, versus because I did study business in school, I completely understood economics, right? So supply, demand, the market, that was like learning my alphabet. I could do all that. I just had to really focus on learning the things I didn't know about Texas soil, Texas land, Texas neighborhoods, Texas communities, and get a grasp on that for me to be able to move comfortably in the luxury space.
Great, and I think that's really important. I was also thinking about just if there's any alumni connections, because a lot of times, in luxury, you may have, sometimes you have entrepreneurs, some people who've never even been to college, right? And they're brilliant and they, make a ton of money. But then you also have those, I'm a Temple grad, I did study at Harvard. However, I don't have a 4-year degree from Harvard. But I met people in the classes I took that I keep in touch with, and I talked to them about real estate. So I'm just wondering if any alumni connections, or even people for even the certificate programs, if anybody's ever given any thought to connecting for anybody that may have a college background.
I do think that I do have some relationships because of that background, just because I did study there. I did get a $1 million referral in Highland Park from someone who studied at Harvard University. So, perhaps that referral was because I studied at Harvard. We didn't necessarily know each other when we were in school. So I do think that each piece of your journey in some way heightens you to where you are, whether you realize it or not. And then I did do another program in Austin with the person I studied at Harvard with, which was Ryan Ellis. He sold a $10 million company way back in, like 2000, that he had created and built from ground up. So just being amongst those peers who do things like that and being able to watch them navigate and elevate, I think that really helps you to build the same confidence, because you know that they're there, you can tap into them if you need to. But nothing specifically that, from studying at Harvard has connected me to the luxury space just yet that I know of.
So we got to work on that alumni thing, because I think
We do.
I think the Obamas have a few bucks, right? And some other folks that probably are alum. So speaking of utilizing your background and your journey, Nadine talked about coaching Jill, and Jill talked about being coached by Nadine about that, that Philly accent. I think mine is kind of Philly and Jersey merged, but we do have a little twang. So Sue, you are a transplant from Philly. What from your modest Philly background were you able to draw on to help build your experience in luxury, your team in luxury? And did you rely more on your Jersey time to build that luxury experience?
I never looked at it as building luxury. I just honestly, I don't know how to answer that question. I mean, I think more, for me, it was always about scaling the business. And so I started doing home selling workshops and I would do, like, for example, a luxury workshop, and I would just we'd have our marketing team send out letters to all the high-end sellers in the area. And it could be either town specific, it could be price range specific, and then it would be just geared towards those clients. And then we're building that database of those people who have raised their hands to sell their houses. So that's really how we built it. So I can't say it's really from my background in Philly. It's more just how my mind works in terms of scaling things. And this also has become the training for my listing agents, so I can see then who really has stepped it up on the listing side, because I'm training agents on my team to be listing agents, and who are the people who would succeed well in luxury. So it's sort of like I bring them along for every appointment, and we do it. I do it first. They watch me. We do it together, and then they do it. And so you really see very quickly who is stepping up to be able to do that. And that's kind of where my role is at this point. It's all about how do we scale. So it's in terms of with the workshops to get as many people in front of you as possible. It's and that also becomes your training. So that's more how my mind works.
Got it. So in essence, there's a saying, you built it from the muscle, right? So you didn't have in your sphere necessarily in Philly, you're saying you didn't necessarily have like those folks you could call on. You had to literally scale it by starting at the ground up and it evolved.
Yeah, I would say I have a marketing mind. That's more how my mind works. Yeah. And then you build on your success. I mean, that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So Nadine, having been in the business for so many years, how do you see the luxury market today versus, let's say, before the recession of the 08, 07-ish era?
Well, it's kind of interesting. The last buyer that we had, when they first called me, they said, we've been running with a realtor for like 9 months and we haven't been able to find anything. And we're very unhappy. We'll refer to you. And the first thing I said was, you said our budget was $1.2 million, $1.3 million. I said, probably all the homes that you've seen didn't live up to your expectations, because as of late, $1.2 million home could have been $800,000 a couple of years ago. I said, so it's a great time to call, and I'm not going to say anything about what happened with your past realtor, because it's been such a difficult market, and it took so much additional navigating and understanding. I don't know who that was, but this is such a great time to call us because from what I see of the changing market, we're gonna find you a house that's gonna live up to your expectations, and we're actually gonna be able to negotiate. And we actually, I set them up with Jill, and Jill took them out the next day. They had the re-show on the weekend, and they bought the house. And I can't say that we're just looking at luxury, not luxury. We're really, I think that's just where I evolved to after many years. I really just go after real estate, and I have a very good referral group. You were talking about her, did it come from school? Well, in Philly, I grew up in Northeast Philly, which in itself is its own world. And I'd say 90% of my clients, I went to school with. The minute I meet you, I look on Facebook, you know this one, and somewhere we either related, went to George Washington, they went to Northeast High. So for me, that's just the best niche of people that, we all come from the same place.
And so as they've grown and evolved, because even though we all work in different types of business, we're being laser focused on our one thing today, which is luxury. Some of those folks have grown into be maybe of a millionaire status, or at the very least, enough, making enough or to be able to afford a home that falls within our category, which is what I believe 775 it might be.
Well, what's interesting is when you have somebody do their BFI.
Yeah.
I mean, I always think that's hysterical.
Yes.
Write everything. Now, where's your 401? Did you know you had $5 million? Like, you're in great shape. And so it's two things I have to remind people. Number one is, you know how you saved all your life for when you were older? You're there. Constantly saying, you're there. Let's spend it.
Yeah.
So I think, millionaire is just regular, if a mature person is hitting it. But I think people, the younger people that, Jill's picking out, are just willing to take their incomes and go for it.
Right. So in Jersey, we don't really do BFIs. So, but for those who are watching maybe in Jersey or other places, that's a buyer financial information sheet, right? So in Pennsylvania, mostly in Philly, we get this sheet that would be completely forbidden in Jersey, where we have our buyers list what kind of assets and debts they have. So some of the things you see are like frightening in a bad way. And then they're astounding when you see, like you said, somebody who might have just been a blue collar guy or blue collar gal, and they got like a Roth IRA that's like worth $5 million.
Right.
And you're like, is that Joe from science class? He's a luxury buyer. So never write off those folks you went to high school with in North Philly or Northeast Philly, because they may be your next luxury client. Yeah. So what is it like right now, Jill, working with the current luxury buyer and seller in light of things that are going on in the economy and just the world? What's a mindset?
Well, I think so. Two things. So the client story that Nadine just shared was probably a huge victory, really a big tell of how the market is going currently. So this is a client that we were able to negotiate and get under contract for $150,000 less than list price with a fully furnished home, which just does not happen. Yes, does not happen. So I think now, it's just really an education process when you're working with your clients that, hey, the market is changing and this is how it, and kind of getting them on board with, folks that maybe were apprehensive to look or apprehensive to put an offer, knowing that they'd be, facing 14 other people that are trying to purchase the same house. I think it's a great time for us as realtors and as the experts to educate people that, hey, the market is changing in your favor. With sellers, and maybe Nadine, you could speak to this a little bit more, but, just setting the expectations at the listing presentation that, the market has changed. The days of, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm seeing things change, but the days of having a line around, the block to get into your open house are over. This is becoming a less forgiving market, that you should expect things like a home inspection. You should, if you weren't before, or if you weren't doing this before, you should stage your homes. You should do all those things, it's becoming, you know, you want to hire this skilled professional because the days of having somebody that throws you in the MLS with iPhone pictures and slaps a sign on the front of your lawn, you're going to require more skill than that now to get your house sold.
Sure,
So,
sure. Speaking of expectations, Sue, what expectations do your agents, what expectations do you have for them when dealing, again, we're talking specifically about luxury, and are they any different from how they deal with all of your clients? And also the follow-up part to that is, what can your luxury specific clients expect from the Sue Adler team that differentiates your team from, say, you know, a competitor?
So we actually don't do anything differently because we, as I said, we're a team of specialists. So I have somebody in my we have a stager on our team. We have a transaction manager who will always come in and have a home inspector come in to do a pre-inspection so that we can take care of repairs or disclose certain things as is condition. He handles all inspection negotiations as well. The seller could, a lot of high-end sellers, they're away for the whole summer, so we handle everything for them when they're away. But that's not even just high-end. They could be, it doesn't even matter what price range. So, I mean, it's sort of like this concierge service where we're just handling things for people. The luxury with the marketing, I mean, we still do Matterport for every listing. We do a digital showcase on every single listing. Luxury, we will do a cinematic video. So that might be a difference there. But I mean, there are two keys to the marketing. It's casting the widest net possible to, you know, to get the most exposure and the most interest in the house, but also creating a brand for their house. And that's really through digital storytelling. So we have a writer on staff who will help with that. We have a whole marketing team. So, and we all talk about it on our morning admin calls about creating the brand for that listing. And then the sellers, we get them involved because the sellers will write, we have the sellers write a letter talking about what they've loved about living there and their stories, the things that you can't see just by walking through. So it changes it from the bricks and mortar to what is it like to live here, and it helps the buyers envision that. So, so that's a really big key piece of it. And did I answer your question? I don't remember.
No, it did. It did because
Okay.
yeah, because you know, like you said, you treat every client the same, and I can appreciate that. I'm the same way. I think we all do recognize certain types of clients require certain things, so we might have to kind of tweak just a bit. And you,
Yeah, I mean, the brochures will be bigger. You'll have, we do brochures on every listing. So the brochures will be maybe 12 pages versus 4 pages. You know, there's, so, and, you know, all professional photography, that's really, the photography is so important. So you just want to do everything really, really high end. No cell phone photos, you know?
Right. Okay. Agreed. It was something else that you said. You just gave us an idea, sort of like a reverse love letter, right? So
Yeah.
I didn't hear NAR didn't say anything about your sellers can't write a letter and say why they love living here. Now that it's, you know, debatable about if buyers can write a letter to a seller, but who says a seller can write a letter?
Well, they're talking about what they've loved about living in their house. Like, for example, how did they use their rooms? It changed. They used to have the mother-in-law there, but now they use it as another home office or whatever it is through the years. We have the block parties and things that that a buyer wouldn't necessarily know as walking through. So we had one where they had a party for about 200 people in their yard, and they had photos of the party in their yard as part of their letter. So and this was on a house it was on a busy street and had the train tracks right behind it, but you saw this party and you're not thinking, oh, well, the train's behind it and it's on a busy street. All you're seeing is, wow, look at this party. There's a tennis court, a pool house, a carriage house. It was like a whole estate. So that's what you're seeing. So it's creating that for the buyer. And we ended up having multiple offers on that. They had been listed with another agent for a couple years before I had it listed, but all the buyers were just seeing were the train tracks on that main street. So it's just creating that vision is really important.
Yeah, I think that's a major key, and that's a great asset tool that you just gave us. Also, too, in most places, certainly in Jersey, yeah, you can't really talk about school districts. You got to kind of stay away from that. You can't talk about safety, things you can't talk about, but a seller certainly giving their testimony about if their kids went to a certain school, how they liked it or loved it. That could certainly help you. How do you all deliver that letter? Are you putting it in the MLS attaching as a document? Is it very
No.
Like, how do you
No, we're
get that?
putting it on our website. So it would be sueadler.com/whatever the address is. So with our digital showcase, you'd see the video there, the Matterport there, floor plan, the PDF of the brochure, the letter would be there. So all of that would be in the digital showcase. Lots of photos.
We want to talk about niche markets a little bit. So one of my niches is waterfronts. I lived in waterfronts for 20 years as a tenant and as an owner. What niches do you all have on your team, Nadine? For luxury specifically.
That's a interesting question. I don't see that. I mean, I personally have niche clients. So I'm specific where I market. Being a minority, I market on in every synagogue. I have found from day one why was my phone ringing and followed that direction. And so I really, we have very diversified as to where are selling, but we are mostly in just 4 different school districts. So there isn't, our luxury market isn't that large. There's the luxury homes are 1 to 2 million, and there's one or a smattering of larger homes. So it's not such a big market that it's kind of the icing on the cake.
So I know Langhorne is the brick and mortar, but we all know to be really successful, you can't just sell where your office is located.
Right.
So are you talking about, you're like Council Rock, like
Yes,
Newtown?
I live in Newtown.
Okay.
So Council Rock is my main selling field, and the Upper Mayfield is where you're going to find their Newtown. Langhorne is going to have very few homes in that price range. But that's still going to be their luxury market. But it's not everybody's choice to buy their very expensive home in an area where they're going to be the most expensive, where there isn't a lot of competition. So mostly our niche marketing would be, as I know we're specifically, but as Sue said also, we're not really specific because we develop every listing and every sale. And I think maybe when we send out our farming after we have a sale, we would hit a larger area than just the small neighborhood of other homes that we sell.
Got it. So you just put a different twist on list. Niche. I said niche. One of my niches is waterfront. I may have cultural niches, right? You just kind of said an affinity group. You have a cultural heritage, religious niche, right? But you're not targeting that. It's just if you go to temple with these people, whatever you do, there's a connection of familiarity.
Right.
Right. And so when they think luxury, just because we're talking about luxury right now, if they think that, then Nadine is probably really top of mind because of that connection. And it kind of by default is a niche for you. Like you're not seeking it out per se, but it comes with the territory being in that.
Well, I do a lot of farming. I do
Okay.
a lot of mailing, and I've never stopped doing that. I mean, people ask me all the time, where should I start sending? And what people don't understand is that's years. That isn't you sent one mailer. I said, don't send one mailer and sit there and wait for your phone to ring. You farm for years that people get to know you. So I think, worked very hard on farming enough that when I go and somebody will say, oh, I know your name, you sold my friend. I mean, that's crucial in any market.
Got it.
And I'm just going to tag on what Sue said for a moment, because what we don't do the letter, which is a beautiful thing, but I do share. We share all of our marketing with the seller. So we share those pictures before they go live, and we share the write-up. And what I find so interesting is when you do take over a listing and you say to your seller, have you ever looked at your listing? No. have you ever seen your pictures? Have you ever read your write-up? So not only was it bad, and that's, we're computer dating. The only way somebody meets you, your new listing, is through those pictures and the write-up. So I will send it to them and say, first of all, is it factual? And secondly, what am I missing that made you, you're on a main highway. Why did you buy this home? Tell me what excited you. Let me put that in there. And I will incorporate, if they have something exciting to say. I mean, sometimes when we have a, la-di-da stove, okay, I got that, but let's let's concentrate on the bigger picture. The stove is going to be, thank you for giving it to me, but what's the bigger picture of what had you purchase this home?
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. Michelle, do you have any niches, whatever they may be? Is there anything niche about your business, whether it be certain terrain in DFW? Do you
Yes.
work with relocation people? Do you have a certain specialty that you want to share?
We, like Sue and Nadine were both saying, we didn't necessarily go out and market for it, but we do have a high level of new builds and new construction. So, and that's probably from, the research I did when I first came here. Just a lot of clients are attracted to us for new builds and new construction here in the DFW area. So it's important for our team and anyone who comes aboard to know all the different custom builders and know a lot about the new build process, what stages they go through, what does it mean when you're on a certain stage, and what happens at this stage, which is you start preparing at this stage, because that's just the clientele that we have, is a lot of new builds. And then also a lot of our families are big on school districts. So whether it's looking for our independent schools like Hockaday or St. Mark's, or if it's looking for your best public schools, which would be, it's just kind of known in our area that Lovejoy is that area where you can get the great school system like South Lake or Highland Park, but you can also get land with it. So a lot of people that are coming to Lovejoy are looking for land, and a lot of people looking for that land are looking to build on that land instead of having a new build knowledge. So just naturally, that's our niche, is the land and the new builds and the school systems.
Speaking of schools, like I said, we're not really allowed to delve into that, but you mentioned that quite a few times. Are in Dallas or in Texas, is it different? Texas allows you to do a lot of things you can't do other places. Are you allowed as a realtor to have those sort of conversations in depth?
We actually have data and information that we pass to them. So we have the websites to refer them to, and then we also have the different ratings that we can give to them to show them that. And then just naturally, our clients are already coming to us and saying, these are the 3 school systems we're looking at. It's just kind of known in this area. If you're looking at Lovejoy, you're looking at Highland Park, or you're looking at South Lake. It's just kind of something that's known in this area. So it's not necessarily the agents steering them to a certain school. This is what they're coming to us for. And then if we do have people that are new to the area, have no idea about the school systems, that's where we have the ratings and the websites and everything that we can refer them to. We don't, we're not allowed to steer them to a certain school district. So there are some restrictions on that.
Got it. Okay. So any parting words that you would like to leave us with about the Sue Adler team and just luxury in general? Any wisdom you can give us here?
Well, I mean, I just think that just keep building on your successes and think in terms of scalability. I mean, like with us, a big part of our market is a lot of people have been in their home for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. They need our help. They haven't sold a house in a really long time. So being able to have this team of specialists who can really handle everything for them. And then when you get these listings and you're helping people through this process, first of all, your agents are thrilled because their role is very limited. They just get to sell real estate, and they're basically, we have ISAs, they put the listings on their calendar, the listing appointments on their calendar. They just go land the listing and then they negotiate the sale. So as you build a team, just the roles will get narrower and narrower, and every list, focus on getting the listings, because then the buyers will just show up. I mean, every open house that you hold is going to bring in buyers for your, leads for your buyer agents. So, just keep building it organically and keep adding value to your clients, because then they're going to refer other clients to you. And then also top agents, what happens is you start getting approached by top agents to join your team because they want to be a part of a winning team. They want to be a part of something big. So it all kind of just plays on itself, and just think in terms of scaling at a high level and providing as much value as possible to both your agents and to the consumer, and you can't lose.
Sage wisdom. Thank you so much for that advice and insight. And Nadine and Jill, what would you all like us to know about your team, Nadine, and what advice would you give aspiring and already involved luxury agents to take us to the next level?
Well, I'm listening to Sue, and we're like a much smaller group. And I remember from going to so many things of Keller Williams through the years that you're impressed. Sue has a very big group, and we're not, and it's not our aspiration. And
we weren't always. We weren't always. We started small.
I understand, like we're a smaller family.
I get the best handbags at the boutiques, so the bigger is not always better.
We are a
And
boutique.
sometimes big is better, so it doesn't even matter.
That is a great description.
Yes.
I actually call us a boutique, and I owned a business, so I always think of my office and my group and everything that we are in business. And it's kind of like, what are we doing now? Is my window, you're walking past the store, is my window covered? What are we getting to make our phone ring? But I think one of our mottos, and it definitely plays into the luxury market, is we don't want any of our clients to call us with a question that we should have already answered. So we try to catch them at what they, we'll get, I was just going to ask you that. And as far as luxury goes, some luxury people are more demanding. Any client can be more demanding. And as Jill said, the building background is crucial, because you appreciate and want you to appreciate their Wolf stove or some stoves I don't even know about. And that's important. And you want to give everybody the same respect, your $100,000 and your $1 million, but you have to appreciate that where they're at in life and how they got there and how proud they are. And it does require a little more skill and knowledge, because people, I'll have a listing, people call and say, can I do an open house for you? And I don't want to be rude, no, we're only doing it in-house, and maybe we're not, but we are selective about you're my face, you're the face of our team if I let you do an open house for me. So it does require more knowledge. I tell people, go on home inspections, learn as much as you can about a house, and pay attention to your client, what's important to them. If they're walking around pointing out in their kitchen all of their appliances and that's very special, then you make sure you appreciate that. It's in your write-up, it's in your pictures. You want them to feel, you want them to know that you're as proud of representing them and the place that they're at in life as they are.
Well said, well said. And Jill, you want to add anything to that about parting words?
Yeah, I think that what we do is very, like I'm hearing Sue talk about this concierge service that she offers, and I think that we do that on a smaller scale. You want to be, the resource for as much as we can for our clients, and make sure that when they choose to work with us, that's the best decision that they've made in this process. Is that, wow, I know you guys are on top of it. I know you have it covered, X, Y, and Z. As far as growing and expanding and scaling in the luxury market, I think our motto really is, how do we make business off of our business? So that really comes through, marketing, through mailing, through, how can we capitalize on the fact that, we have this listing that we believe in, and our clients know that we believe in, their house. And just to what you're saying, kind of where they're at in life, how do we convey that to others too? And that kind of brings, more business into that luxury realm as well.
Very important, especially if, you grew up differently, or there's certain nuances to that luxury space. Just learning that is really important. And I think, Michel, we're gonna end off with you, with just some parting words about you down in Allen, Texas, the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Anything you want to leave us with for aspiring or current luxury agents? What can you tell us as a KW Luxury regional board member and a practitioner?
Thanks, Amber. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. And Amber, such an amazing facilitator. Thank you. Sue and Nadine, I love doing these panels because I learned so much from the people that I'm on the panel with, just reminders. So thank you for doing that. We are currently listing a 4-acre farm. And one of the things that Sue mentioned was just making sure you are taking that property from just being a property to what else, right? Like what does the family, the seller who's selling that property, love about it and not want to leave, and what are they still kind of holding on to they wish to pass on to the next buyer? So knowing that those 4 acres are biodegradable and it's ready for gardening, and those things are important but not necessarily listed on a regular MLS listing. So having those stories are so important, and we actually also post the stories on the counter for people coming through who might not see the listing online but just come through the open house. So they have a little bit of more of a story versus just looking at a house and looking at the bedrooms and the layout. As far as getting into the luxury space, because I'm so passionate about that for people, I would say love and serve upon the current clients that you have at a really high level. Be a great listener, ask great questions, and then also for that confidence build, learn the market that you're not currently serving, that you choose to be in. Just learn it at a really high level. So when those opportunities show up by serving and loving the current clients you have, you're ready to step into them with confidence, because people can feel that. And then as far as being a board member, I would just say get involved. I think KW has so many great opportunities. I've had the opportunity as big as teaching in Paris, France, at 5 of our different offices, teaching for KW Luxury. And then just as small as just serving our agents right around this region by connecting them to a photographer or whatever that they may need, having a little bit more of a concierge service than what they currently have. So just be involved, stay connected, and there's so much you can do, and including with working with professional athletes, with sports and entertainment, and whatever it is you choose to do, just make sure it's joyful service and you're caring for your clients at a really, really high level.
Make sure it's joyful service. 2 key words, joyful and serving, right? I want to thank you all so much. You ladies have been absolutely powerful and amazing and gracious, and most importantly, you come from contribution, right, which is the KW way. So thank you for your time, your attention. Thank you for the audience. We hope you've enjoyed this panel, and we're looking forward to the next one. Nadine, we're going to pull everything out of you because we have you on this next panel too, right?
No.
Oh, no,
That's
yeah,
another
okay.
one, sorry.
Oh, great. Oh, yeah. Well, you know, we're going to keep this Nadine around, right? They're the Doublemint twins.
I'm
So.
passing around time.
So we got another great Nadine coming your way. So sit tight. We got more coming. We're going to transition right into the next one. Grab a drink, use the restroom if you need to. We're coming right back at you. So go nowhere.